I know it's tough. I totally know it's tough dating. Dude, I'm 36 years old. Sometimes we wake up and we wonder why we're single, because I feel like our personalities are so amazing.
All right, guys, this is Old School Will coming with you. I got another one. This one's going to be titled Why are Older Men Staying Single? I'm included in on this one. There's a lot of reasons for that. I went through hundreds and hundreds of videos, and I couldn't help but notice that the men of this generation are like, in a way, the men of my generation, coming up in the, I don't mind telling my age, coming up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And in the 60s and 70s, I was in my teen years and growing up, so to speak. One thing I noticed is that my generation really isn't that different from the men of this generation. We have all been seeking the same thing. And when I was thumbing through a lot of these videos, one thing that I kind of noticed is that the answer is right there in front of us, men and women. The common denominator that I found out and I lived through, and I actually went through 3 different times, is that we just don't listen to each other intently. When you listen to your spouse, it should be you and your spouse, period. It shouldn't be family. It shouldn't be your best girlfriend or your best friend. It should be none of this. If you want to find out what's in your man's heart, and this video is really primarily directed toward the men, and hopefully the women will listen. Well, we'll see. Of what their men are trying to tell them. I remember my relationships coming up. I tried many times to get my spouses to listen intently to what I was saying. Men are we're simple. We're not really that hard to really deal with. We're very simple. We're not emotional. Women are emotional. We know that. Men think logically. That's what makes and help us survive and get through life. We are the type of individuals that we're going to accept a challenge. But one thing I've noticed is that when we talk to each other, we don't talk to each other. We talk at each other. When one person is talking, the other person has to get louder and louder and louder to try to get their point across. That's the wrong way of doing anything. If you love your spouse, if you love your girlfriend, or if you love your boyfriend, you got to listen to them. The words that are coming from their mouths. We got to stop this nonsense of having 3, 4, 5, 6 different people in our lives. I noticed that even on these social media sites, we put all our business out there in cyberspace so everybody and their grandmothers can hear it and see what kind of individuals we are and the nonsense that we're dealing with. I listened, and a lot of, you're not gonna like what I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna tell it like it is because it seems like nobody else will. When women don't want to hear something, they get louder. When men see this, they become quiet. They shut up. They go back into their little private space, a space of peacefulness. They don't want to deal with the aggravation. And women just don't seem to get that. Women get around and they say that, well, we can't find a decent man. That's because men have so much trauma in their life from dealing with most women, and I'm not saying all women, because there are still a lot of good women out there. So don't get me twisted on that one. And the women I'm talking to they know exactly who I'm talking to. All you have to do is just look at social media and you can see for yourself who they are. And the thing that really gets me is good women are not speaking up. At least not enough of them. I see a few of them on our sites here talking, but we're not seeing enough. You can't yell at your spouse and expect to come to a conclusion as far as what the problem is. That's not gonna work whatsoever. Divorce is on the rise, and I don't see no return of this. This is really a screwed up situation for this generation and generations to come. Men have checked out. And it's one of the major things and I've talked to a few friends about this, and they kind of recline or didn't really want to hear it. Men are checking out, and they're going to different countries to find their spouse that's going to bring them that joy and peacefulness. And because of that, the women in this country, in the U.S. of A., are ticked off about that, and they're the ones that are pushing them over. As I said earlier, men are simple. We just want peace of mind, a good meal every so often. We're not holding you hostage, and we're not making slaves out of you. That's part of being married. That's part of two becoming one. The men do the hard labor. They make the hard decisions. And today, in today's society, women are trying to do that too. It's like all competition is just out there. We're competing against each other. You cannot have two alphas in the same household. It does not work. I don't care if you're married. I don't care if you're boyfriend, your girlfriend, or boyfriend, or girlfriend. Two alphas will not work in a relationship. Up front, it might. But as time goes on, it is not going to work. So I decided I was going to start different segments on why men are really checking out and they're staying single like myself. And God, if I was to tell my story to you, you really wouldn't. You probably would believe it because a lot of you probably went down the same pathway I have in my life. But with all that being said, this is going to be episode 1. And this is the time that we definitely need to get those comments in there so we can start talking to each other. Men and women talking to each other, not at each other, and not yelling and saying negative and bad things about each other. Because if you want to resolve a problem, you got to talk to each other to get that problem resolved, to find out where the problem lies. And we just don't do that. This nonsense needs to stop. If not, there's not going to be a future for most. Right now, I'm satisfied being single. And I have been single since, 2003. What's that, 21 years. 21 years. Been married quite a few years prior to that. 3 different times. I don't mind sharing that. But the common denominator on my leaving, all 3, was the same. They just did not want to listen. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and a lot of reasons that went on at that time that I did not know about until now. Sad, isn't it? All these years later, now I'm finally beginning to figure it out through social media, because in my time we did not have social media. Not like we have today. But I'm just going to have one person on my clip, and I want you guys to listen to him real closely and intensely, because although he's of this generation, his soul is of my generation, because what he's talking about is what we've went through in my time. But like I said, we didn't have social media to put it out there in cyberspace where everybody can analyze and do all this stuff as far as the things that we were doing wrong. And I admit I did some wrongs, but I did a lot of rights. But nobody wanted to listen. And I remember, this is going to be my final thing. I remember one thing I told each one of my spouses is the worst thing you could do is let me clam up. Because when you clam up, that means you realize at that moment that there's no hope of getting through. Because we're in this constant battle to be the one who's always right and the one who's dominant. Doesn't work like that. If you don't believe me, pick up a Bible and read that. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and let's go with this one clip that I have. And I'm not gonna cut in on it. I'm gonna let you see it in its entirety. Because this intro I'm doing is gonna it's taking care of a lot of that. But I want you to see it in its entirety. And this young man he's of my generation, although he's a lot younger. All that being said, let's go ahead and let's get started so you can see for yourself.
Because I know it's tough. I totally. Let me get the gentlemen in my comments, ladies. Let me show you exactly where the real men are.